And so that's what I feel is the key. And now you do have tools and stuff to support your journey, but just be aware of, are the tools giving you the knowledge of self to where you are now in the seat of power within your own consciousness? Or is it something that you need to externalize to then get a different result?
All right, so this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Personal experiences have been super positive, and I think that the idea that you can have anything that you want is such an amazing thing to kind of like chat about and kind of like just break down and share with people how they can do that. I think
Yeah.
manifestation in general has been a buzzword in TikTok, on Instagram, and all these different social media platforms. And they all include like different techniques on how you can do that.
Right.
So I personally I want to ask you, what the definition of manifestation is. Tell me what when you hear the word manifestation, what does it mean to you?
Well, when I hear the word manifestation, I hear misconception. And this is what I mean. So, manifestation usually traditionally implies um, bringing something into form, making something tangible in a physical sense. And for me, that's more along the lines of materialization. So, making something materialize, right? So, manifest, I kind of think of like coming out of thin air, but materialization, there's a process behind it. There's uh, you could say a linear progression of energy that brings about an experience. And this is whenever we get into things like frequency, harmonics of the frequency, vibration, resonance. So instead of manifesting something or affirming something, because a lot of things people do, I just made a note this morning, is they try to manifest using affirmations. But if you pay attention, what's happening is they're trying to affirm something that isn't true just yet. So they're using the affirmations to try to make it true. When in reality, what you want to do is, I say plus one. I have this technique called, it's the plus one technique, where you are becoming the energy, you're the frequency first, like quite literally living in your imagination. This is the creator zone, right? The creator zone is the place of pure potential. And when you live in that creator zone, like for example, if you want to materialize um, going on a trip, right? Instead of writing in your journal, I'm going on this trip, I'm going on this trip, in this like negative one, trying to reach for it, you start in plus one. You start with imagining yourself at the trip. You start with writing things that you want to do at the trip. You make the trip and that experience real internally first. And this starts at us at a plus one. So now what is reflected back to us is the truth that we can now affirm. Affirmations are secondary to the inner realization. I can affirm that I'm wearing a blue shirt because I see it. It's here. I affirm this. So there's
I
that.
love that you said secondary, because one of the things I was going to add is I do feel like affirmations are really important and they're definitely a part of this process.
Mhm.
And but like you said, it's not the whole process, you
No.
know. So with along with the affirmations has to be the belief. Belief meaning that you think something will or will not happen,
Right.
or the truth of something.
Right.
So if that's the word belief, then I guess the next question is, how can we get to that mindset, right? How can we get into the state where we truly believe? And I think this
Mhm.
is where a lot of people get hung up on, is they
Mhm.
start that's when the wall comes, and it's always based off of like self-deprecating thoughts, not thinking that they're worthy, or that our ego comes into play where we feel like we have to have all of these different prerequisites
Mhm.
in order before you can even get to that thing that you want, before you can even get to the affirmations or the visualization or the belief. So let's go. I really want to talk about that part and the importance of actually believing that you are worthy enough to have this thing. You
Yeah.
know, um, I think first, actually, I think I want to go back a little bit, because I feel like we should talk about manifestation techniques
Mm.
and then go into that. I think
Yeah.
that's really important. So there is a specific technique that I want to bring out that I think is absolutely, it's so interesting. And what makes it interesting is because it's actually coming from the CIA. So our government is actually knows all about this. And I think that makes it even more real because I feel like it's been a secret for so long that you can manifest, and I'm just going to use that word because it's the easiest word to use right now, but you can have these things that that you want, or the belief system that you want, whatever it is. So more specifically, there's this CIA document called, I'm sorry, experiment called the Gateway Experiment. Have you heard of that? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't heard about the Gateway Experiment, it basically exists as like a training system designed to bring and enhance your mental capabilities, right? Like your brain waves. And I'm not going to get super technical with this because that's going to go down a whole nother rabbit hole. But one of the common words I saw when I read the document was the word frequency.
Mhm.
So it's teaching you how to raise your frequency so that you can get to the right mindset or mind state to allow these things to come through, to receive them.
Mhm.
And they specifically use tapes called hemisync CDs.
Mhm.
And I remember like years ago, I looked into this, and this is way before my official spiritual journey. I had no idea what any of this stuff meant. And I was like, okay, so I can just buy these CDs, meditate with them, and then I can have whatever I want, right? And I looked up the price of the CDs, and it was like $300 or something. Super expensive for a teenager to be purchasing, right?
Right.
So I let it go, forgot about it, and I just looked up the price. I think it was 2 days ago, and they're down to like $100 on eBay. Now, these particular tapes, you listen to tape one, and I think it's called Wave One, and you listen to the whole thing. It's like 30 minutes, and it's supposed to bring your mind to a certain level of frequency so that you can accept the things that are coming through in your reality, right? So I want to ask you, when it comes to things like this, do you feel like it's necessary to use tools? Do you feel like this is something that you can gain on your own? Do the tools aid? Because my
Mm.
personal experience, I like using tools, but when it comes to manifesting something, I would rather just use my visualization techniques because that's what's good. That's what I'm really good at doing.
Right.
I'm a very visual person. So what do you think about that?
I love that. No, those are all really, really awesome points, and very familiar with gateway process, hemisync, all those things. Neville Goddard has some wonderful information on manifestation or materialization. And what do I think about tools? So, starting with tools, my firm stance is that we are the tool. We are literally the source. We are the consciousness. We are a soul. The soul is literally the end all be all because it is the ether. It's the thing. It's the God, if you want to call it that. Um, and I don't use God in a religious sense, but in a sense of something that is beyond space, time, and all perceptions of the mind. It's the substance, um, or the medium. So I feel like anyone can tap into their consciousness given the right atmosphere. For me, it's all about atmosphere. It's very hard to get into a synchronized brain function when you're living in the city, surrounded by cars, surrounded by smog, yelling and screaming, unhealthy things, whatever it is, TV shows. So the atmosphere is very important to the progression of the consciousness. Humans, when given the correct atmosphere, will naturally develop the neurological pathways to manifest or materialize because it becomes a natural progression of their thinking, right? So in the Western world, we're taught that if we want something, we got to do X, Y, and Z, and da da da, take all these steps, right? But no one really talks about atmosphere and the importance of surrounding, right? So now, you were talking about getting into the right frequency, right? So since this is cosmic frequency, well, why is frequency relative and important? It's relative because I had a drawing I did one time. Basically, it was a circle and had like different waves at different levels of the circle, right? So let's say there's like six waves. So one, two, three, four, five, six. Most people are stationed here at the bottom wave. Now, those lines aren't really there. Those lines in this drawn out circle going across the circle are simply frequency barriers. What are those? Those are belief systems that people hold about themselves that they think is or is not possible. And so, really, what I'm saying is everything is already here, everything is already connected. Whenever the Hemisync and Gateway Project is talking about frequency resonance, that's the key word. It's resonance. If I want to experience something, I must become the frequency, making those lines vanish, because there is none, really. There's no dimensions, there's nothing that separates us other than our own thoughts. So we match the frequency by going into the imagination of the thing. So you're no longer trying to, again, reach outside of yourself. You're simply imagining what it is you want to experience. And when you imagine something, you create an image, an I image, right? I, so the I, and then you image, or you become the mage or the magician. It's all magic. So there's so much I want to say about that, but yeah, I want to make sure I'm not going on like 5 different tangents.
No, that's perfect. And I think we're going to definitely talk more about how you would define it and how, like, what specifically what techniques you use, what
Yeah,
your practice is when it comes to manifesting a little
yeah.
bit later. But I want to talk about another technique that I've run into in my life, and it was coined by Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
for those of you who don't know, there are people in the world that are able to tap in so much that they're able to pull in interdimensional beings, or I'm sorry, extra
mm-hmm,
dimensional beings. And these beings are able to kind of speak through them. So they're considered what most people would call
mm-hmm.
channels, right? Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks is a channel, and Abraham Hicks is the group of beings that speak through her. So these particular beings have provided her and everyone who listens to her with the information on how to manifest, how to get everything that we want, right? They call it the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is something that's really popular. The law of attraction has been defined by so many different spiritual teachers. It was made popular by Abraham Hicks and also the book The Secret,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So really, really amazing technique that's out there. And what I love about the law of attraction is it focuses more on making sure that you're following your inspirations, doing the things that you love, doing the things that make you happy. And while you're doing that, that thing that you requested, whether it be physical or not, it will come through. And it'll come through because you're allowing it to. And I think where this becomes a little difficult for people is because when they get an inspiration, like, and if you're anything like me, you get it and then you want to just jump and do it right now. You don't want to wait. You don't want to be patient. You've asked for, this, or you requested this thing from the universe, and now you're not even going to wait for the magic to happen, right? So I
Right.
think the hard part about law of attraction is actually waiting,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying sitting there and doing nothing. I think that's really important, important distinction I need to make. No one's saying sit on your couch and watch TV after asking for a successful company to happen in your life. Obviously there's steps to take. The question is, are you in the mindset to actually like accept the steps that are coming through? When you are introduced to someone and you don't want to work with them because they don't, like, they're not you're not able to check off the list on their personnel with their personality traits and things, you're actually blocking that manifestation in a way. So just kind of like allowing without your ego getting in the way, and without um thinking that it needs to look a specific way, because it doesn't. And that's where the law of attraction kind of like, I think, gets people a little mixed up. But anyways, that is one of my favorite techniques. And my last technique that I'm really in love with is visualization, because I'm really great at it. And a lot of people out there, especially if you have really strong clairvoyant abilities, I guess strong psychic abilities in general, and you're able to close your eyes and still see the vibrance and still see like the world how it is without there being a disconnect in a way. So visualization, I think, is important, because it's not just a visualizing that you, just like Chris said, that you would focus on. It's also the feeling that comes with it. So can you visualize so much that you're also emotionally in that part of your life that you're requesting? Do you see it? Do you feel it? Have you become that person? Um, I would say really quick here, I want to bring up dreams. I was gonna wait till the end, but I do want to talk about dreams for a second. So one of the things or one of the methods I use when it comes to manifesting something I want is before I go to bed, I ask the universe. I'll just say the universe, a certain request, and they'll show it to me in my dream, and I get a chance to see it from a different perspective. I also get a chance to actually live in that life that I want and experience it at the highest level. And that actually helps me determine whether I even want it or not. So, like, I've already done that, I've been this really popular, famous person in my dream. And I'm like, you know what? The attention is too much for me. Absolutely not. I don't want that, you know? So, um, I guess I'll just go through the list one more time. My favorite techniques is the law of attraction, visualization, and then using your dreams to actually live in the life that you're requesting. So I guess we'll go into, like, what are your favorite techniques if you have any at all?
Woo! That's awesome. Yeah, people will really gravitate towards that. Yeah, so the law, and for me, it's the hall of mirrors. I see reality as a hall of mirrors where one is one is one is one, no matter what universe you're in or dimension, one is one. So meaning that um, it's more of the same. So going back to the example of I had of the circle and the different segments, you become that second or third rung in this in the circle the second you allow yourself to be it. And how do you do that? So for me, this is all I do. It's very simple, and it kind of gets overlooked a lot in manifestation or reality generating circles. I like that a lot better because you're generating a reality. That's really what it is. It's kind of like you're driving down a highway and there's all this fog, and you can only see 20 feet in front of you, but you know the more that you go, the more that you see. You just can't see it all at once. So you kind of have to go through it to get to it, kind of thing. What does that mean? It means reality is a self fulfilling prophecy. So you're generating it as you go. We exist in a field of pure potential. Our thoughts and ideas determine what part of that pure potential we can experience. So whenever we're talking about generating our reality, manifesting materialization, I think the most overlooked and fundamental thing is the state of mind that's done in. So you could have the affirmations, you could have all these other things, but if you're not in a transcendent state of mind, it takes much longer. So this is what I teach people, and this is part of the advanced meditation techniques that we talk about in the academy. Is so when you go into meditation, and meditation for me now is a place where I'm generating reality. I'm consciously creating. I'm not co-creating. I am the creator. I am the source. I am the ether defined itself as a soul. So from that point of self-awareness, I go into a deep meditative state, and I don't start to think about or manifest anything until I can feel that my thinking and logical mind has turned off, and I become one with my awareness again. And so it's this really deep, subtle kind of pure potential space. And it's that space that I think people have a hard time accessing. But it's that space where the magic happens. Because what happens is in that space, in that 0 point pure potential field of consciousness that you are, anything's possible. And not only that, when you get into that space, your materialization power is enhanced tremendously, because now it's not being filtered through your ego or anything. You're in a very pure potential. It's almost like instant. So the second you think about being that speaker or that talker, the ether is already morphing to fit that. The next thing you know, you open your eyes and then someone's asking you to, hey, you want to do this talk? It happened to me, literally speaking from experience. Um, and so what I see a lot of people doing is they're trying to get into meditation, but they're still, this is what they do. They sit down. Okay, all right. So I'm going to focus on getting this new car. Okay, focus. Okay, yep, the new cars and look like this. but there's still their brainwaves haven't switched over yet. You got to learn how to consciously shift your brainwaves from beta, thinking, hey, to alpha, right? To theta, to gamma, right? And then all the way down into delta. And I think these brainwaves are just the preliminaries. I know I've hit brainwaves that aren't even measurable because our science doesn't have the technology.
Hmm.
Science can only measure what it thinks is possible. So I'm sure there's a plethora of brainwaves that are off the charts, quite literally, that people enter into that are only going to be filtered through the 4, 5, or 6 basic brainwaves that we have. But the goal here is to get into a deep state of meditation. Your body becomes very light. You kind of feel like you're just pure awareness, and then you can still think, but then you introduce the thing that you want to experience, right? And then you'll see tremendous results. And that's, I mean, I guess technically what the hemisync process is all about. And going back to that for a second, tools. Um, the best tool is the one that teaches you how to manage your energy, right? Not the tool that does the thing for you. So I think that's what's special about Cosmic Academy is that we teach you how to access your own level of hemisync potential versus and it's okay. I know there's nothing wrong with like listening to the tapes or using these tools whatsoever. I'm just saying there's another approach to it where you can actually become that powerful, where you literally are syncing your brainwaves. I do this all the time. Sync my left and right hemispheres. You can do it through mudras. You can do it through humming. You can do it through visualization. So yeah. Did I even give any techniques? I know I talked about
No,
going
yeah,
deep.
basically you made it a perfect point. You made a perfect point by stating that it's not necessarily the techniques that are the most important. It's more about approaching it from knowing that you have the ability to do this yourself.
Yes, that's it. Yes, and I
I
feel
can
like
take an aid if you need it,
right,
but the goal is to kind of not use something as a crutch in a way. You
right.
know,
Yeah.
same with any tools, any type of psychic tools, tarot cards, etc. Okay, I won't use tarot cards as an example. Don't crucify me, everyone, please. Oh
Anisha,
my
how
goodness.
could you?
Yeah, well, I know that goes deep. There's a whole tarot rabbit hole. I'm not gonna
Oh,
go.
I know. I already know. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'll
I
just stop
take
it.
that back.
No, you're good. I think the point here is that yes, you can, and I can give specific techniques, but what I'm really interested in is helping people navigate how their consciousness works. You know, I can give you the techniques, but wouldn't it make more sense for you to know why the techniques work from
Yep.
that angle? So then, oh shoot, so that's why whenever I do this, this happens. So you're already in the position of what I call a plus one. I said this earlier. You're in the position of plus one where you understand something so fundamentally that you become it. You become the teaching, you become the technique, and therefore you become your own self-fulfilling thought, basically. And so that's what I feel is the key. And now you do have tools and stuff to support your journey, but just be aware of, are the tools giving you the knowledge of self to where you are now in the seat of power within your own consciousness, or is it something that you need to externalize to then get a different result? You see what I'm saying? There's a very fine line, and
Of course.
they can coexist. They can.
Yeah. So one of the things you also brought up was reality, like being able to change our reality. In a way, it reminds me of the idea of reality jumping, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
timeline jumping. So I truly believe that there's a version of ourselves out there that has these things already that we're requesting. For an example, if you want a Lamborghini, you want the big house, you want the family, I don't know, all the way to whatever it is. There's a version of us that already has this because this has never been a new request from you. You've made this request trillions of times, right? And there's a version of you that has gotten to the state that you just mentioned and was able to bring that into their own reality. So the question is, how can we do that? And you just explained it. Yeah, and you already explained it. Okay. So you don't have to go through that all again. But I do want to chat about, what you think about timeline jumping, because these are a lot of buzzwords that are being thrown around right now. And when I think of timeline jumping, a lot of people, including myself, have thought of physically, or I'm sorry, not physically, but literally doing it, like meditating to the point where you picture yourself going to different wormholes in the galaxy and the universe and getting to this other point.
Right.
But what I love about that is, or what I love about it in general, is the idea that you can actually change who you are now to bring that in. And it's not going to look like what you think it's going to look like. It's not going to be this, you go into the bathroom and you're this new person, your hair turns red, and, you're like this, you're like this comic book version of you, kind of like in, what was the recent movie? Everything All at Once. Have you seen that?
I love that movie. I need to watch it again.
I need to watch it a third time because I feel
Please.
like there's so much.
Yeah.
I'm not really like catching it all.
Yeah.
So, what I want to get your opinions on that.
Oh my. And this is, now we're getting into the nuances of cosmic frequency, and I love it. So man, because I have one concept, but then that concept connects to another concept. So I'm like, all right. So timeline jumping. Let's simplify this in a way that's digestible, that you can explain it to a 2-year-old. You are already all the things. If you want to be something else, just think of yourself as that something else. So the words that we use in the human language are very defining, and they set up different neurological pathways that then become self-fulfilling. So whenever we use things and phrases like we all do, like timeline jumping, we create an experience where our brain thinks, oh, we're going from here to there, right? So we create this linear process that it doesn't need to always be like that. So I call it a time sphere, or a time map, or a frequency map, where instead of um, seeing yourself jumping from point A to point B, person A to person A point one, what you do is you change your auric frequency. You have a torus around you that is an accumulation of your thoughts, accumulations of your feelings. And that gives you this bubble of energy that we call the torus. And that torus, what it does is it's literally self-fulfilling, it's self-generating. So it starts from the center, it goes out and around, and it kind of does this over and over and over. Now, the frequency of the torus is based on your thoughts. So when you shift your thoughts, the pulse rhythm, or the rhythm of the torus, changes to match the thoughts. Some people call this the Merkaba. So what happens is you'll see your life change subtly. The higher your frequency is, the more strong your torus and your aura is, the quicker you will see a physical change in your environment. But like Tanisha just said, it's not necessarily you're going to look in the mirror and be like, oh, boom, now I'm Harry Potter. No, you're already Harry Potter. You're just now having the conscious experience of being Harry Potter. Where before you weren't aware, you were just aware of being Tanisha or Tim or John or Sally. Now you're aware of yourself as Tanisha, Tim and Sally, and Harry Potter. So it's an addition to your self-expression. So what we're doing here is, by changing our thoughts, focusing our attention, we create awareness, and awareness generates gravity, and gravity generates things. So we literally become the thing that we want to experience. We're not jumping anywhere. We're literally just becoming it. But we use the word jump because it's a way we can describe multidimensionality, right? It helps us make it a little bit more tangible. Yeah. So for me, again, it's the time sphere. It's shifting your frequency through shifting your thought waves, which then generate a different pulse rhythm in your aura, that then materialize the thing that you want to experience subtly, so that you can experience the becoming of yourself. Right? It's like, how boring would it be to be like, boom? I mean, first off, it would be a lot of fun on one level to be like, jump here, jump there. But then they say that the journey is the destination. So there's this journey of becoming and experiencing yourself morphing into that man or woman that you want to be. So you get to learn lessons along the way. You get to discover different nuances about yourself. You're still materializing and shifting and changing. You are that person, but sometimes that experience of becoming is really key to really integrating the wisdom and knowledge of why the heck in the first place you wanted to be or have that thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm happy that you brought that up because I think that's the part that we miss. We get so caught up in what we want and what we're requesting, and then we just forget about the process of actually getting it and how much we've learned, the experience that we've gotten. So I want to talk about like a personal example of that. So a couple of years ago, I would say like maybe 5 at this point, I worked for someone in his nonprofit, and it was about 3 years that I worked with him. And my goal originally was to help as many people as possible. This is back when I was still very much in my ego mindset, where I was just like, helping one person is absolutely not enough. It needs to be thousands. So, because I have to do this, not no one else is doing it but me. So, anyways, I'm working with this person. He has a nonprofit and he has a team of people. And I remember being so excited that he had a team because I didn't have to do it by myself. I didn't want to do it with myself anymore. So I'm in this nonprofit. We're doing really great. I notice a couple of red flags. I ignored these red flags because I just didn't want to believe that it to be true that this team that I'm working for might not be a positive thing that I'm doing. Like I'm helping people, yes. And what I mean by people, by the way, our focus was the homeless population. So I'm helping as many homeless people experiencing homeless as much as possible, things like that. Um, and it got to the point where my intuition was just screaming at me. My mom, the people around me were asking me questions and were saying, this doesn't sound right, blah, blah, blah. And I got tired of ignoring it. So I had to disconnect myself from that particular thing. So in doing that, there was emotions of anger, regret, just feeling overwhelmed sadness. I went through a state of depression because 3 years of my life, and at the time I thought just was wasted. So after that, it took me, I don't know, it took me I would say maybe a year or two when I decided to go into the tech industry. Complete opposite, like solar opposite or polar opposite, I mean, and from nonprofit to tech. And it took me doing that and realizing that I was projecting a lot of my insecurities in my life on the people that I worked for. I worked my way up in this company. I became a manager, and then the people that were, I guess, my subordinates, I was projecting, what I believed should be what their life path should be. And I remember I look back now and I'm like, I can't believe I did that, but you know, and at the time I thought I was helping them, but I was trying to help them in replace of helping myself. Um, Now this is where what you were talking about comes in. And all of that, when I sat down with myself one day and I was just like, you know what? The nonprofit wasn't a waste of time. I gained so much experience, and I wrote down my actual experiences, kind of like writing down. It felt like I was writing my resume all over again, but a more mindful resume. And I was just like, this is what I learned. This is what I learned. This is what I thought about it. These are the things I learned about myself. These are the things I learned about helping other people. These are the things I loved in what I did and what I didn't. And I realized that actually paved the way for what I'm doing right now. And that is helping one person to help thousands of people. And if that's the I guess the spoke or the nut in the wheel that I have to be, if I'm just the screw, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being a small part of something a lot bigger. And it's a beautiful thing too. But ultimately, it's the experience that's the most important thing. And again, going back to trying to control everything, right? Trying to control how things look. It's like, as long as we are doing what makes us happy, everything is going to fall into place, even if it doesn't look like it from the outside. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really powerful story, and just hearing you say that, seeing the thought process and how it developed over time, because you're able to at least have a moment of self reflection, is really cool and really powerful. So I hope people who are listening to this take that what Tanisha just shared and apply it. The things that you're going through and moving through are not there to harm you. They're there to enhance you. It might not seem like it, but usually the things that you learn can be applied later on. Um, and something else that I want to point out is going back to timeline jumping, because this is very important, is realizing that your timelines, because, okay, so are humans on the positive timeline? How do I switch my timelines? How do we, all this timeline, right? Again, we use the word timeline, we see it as a straight line, but time is not linear in that way. And this is very important. We cannot talk about materialization, manifestation, and creation and generating reality without understanding the fundamentals of time. So I know this is kind of the whoa, we're going here, but yeah, it all connects. So your own timeline or experience of time is a reflection of your inner compass. So time is the byproduct of self-awareness. When you become aware that you are Chris and not Tanisha, there's now separation, right? There's now an awareness of being this and not that. And that awareness of him and not her gives us an individuation of experience so that we can know ourselves as Tanisha or Chris. And so that's what we call a timeline. Your timeline, your time sphere, is really just the unfolding of your level of self awareness. So as you gain more consciousness and you become more expanded in your thinking, in your concepts and ideas, you will then have access to more ethereal or akashic information. That information then becomes a part of your reality, which is to say, you can now understand, comprehend, and apply deeper concepts that now get unfolded from you that create your timeline, your experience of reality. You see what I'm saying? So it's this self fulfilling, regenerating energy based on how much awareness and developed consciousness you have. That's how you timeline jump. That's how you move through reality. It's all based on you and what you can perceive. Some people are still stuck in the same timeline, time sphere of the 1990s, listening to the same music, living in the same place, eating the same food. They're stuck in that time frame because they have not been able to access higher or different levels of awareness. If those people who are stuck in that time loop had access to different levels of awareness, they can now integrate that information into their life and apply it, and then their life would change. And from a spiritual point, we would say, well, they quantum jumped or they timeline shifted. Yes and no. But your timeline is directly proportional to the amount of information, potential energy that you have integrated and then are able to apply. And that'll get you different experiences.
That
That
was
just,
very well said. That was very well said because that's the truth. I think in the spiritual community, we have a habit of separating things where
yes,
we post these videos and we have these books that are created that are how to strengthen your psychic abilities, how to manifest anything you want, et cetera, et cetera. But it always brings it back to one thing, and that is basically raising your frequency, raising your
yes,
consciousness,
exactly.
learning how the universe works, learning how your mind and how your own inner guide works. Your higher self is what I like to call it.
Yes,
Um,
yes, Tanisha, you
yeah,
got it.
future me. But so it's interesting because I think that's kind of like, I don't remember the term, but I know it's like a really business term. But basically, if you think of large corporations, they're always just like, "Oh, this is how you do X, Y, and Z." When really, you already know the shortcut. Everything's very easy. It's just that's how they sell it to you. They sell it to you in pieces so that they can keep the whole for themselves. So,
Yes, I'm so hyped. Yes.
yeah. So I want you to tell me a personal experience of when you manage, and I know this happens all the time, obviously,
Yeah.
but I wanted something that you remember that really stuck out to you when you asked for something and you got it, and how that changed your life.
Man, yeah, I'm literally just trying to think of like one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because it gets to the point where it's just something that it's natural. It's just how you live your life, right? So you get to a level where, like you said, you're trying to manifest one thing, but then you realize, oh, I can just have this on default setting, and it's just life just unfolds.
Yeah.
Then at that point, you got to be really careful about what you think about, and that's kind of what I feel is happening to me. Is like I have to, I can't, I no longer have the liberty to just be unconscious in my thoughts, because there's thresholds of consciousness that you can get to, and there's no end. You just keep expanding. But the threshold that I've realized myself in within myself is if I'm thinking about something, it's going to happen. Example, here we go. See how I just did that? So we used to have chickens, and they were great. We actually had chickens and ducks, and this is years ago. One day, I think I was just having a bad day. I was just in a crappy mood, but I don't really remember what was going on. And I think I don't know, just my energy was just off, right? And all of a sudden, I'm hearing like all this commotion outside. I'm like, what is going on? And there's this hawk trying to get our chickens. Now, why? How does it have anything to do with my bad day? Well, let me tell you another story. Um, I was thinking about making business cards for cosmic frequency or something like, for cosmic frequency, just to maybe have on the side if people wanted them. I randomly go to Target one day, and there's this. I'm just doing my shopping. We leave the store, and then I come outside, and then we look over, and there's this random van there. It's the most beautiful. It's all colorful and everything, and on the side it says we make business cards and all these things. I'm like, wait, what? So it was a direct reflection. So on both ends of the spectrum, and I ended up talking to the guy, got his business card. One day we'll talk to him about making different, materials for cosmic frequency. But the point here is with the chickens, I was in a disharmonic state of mind. And it materialized in my reality, in my life, as my chickens getting attacked. Now, that when you realize that you are the source, you are the field, there's no longer separation between the external and the internal. You know the difference, but your life becomes a literal, almost immediate reflection of what you're thinking about. So at Target, I just was thinking about business cards. I had never seen this. I go there all the time, and this van just happened to be there on the day that I was just thinking about business cards. We live in a dream. This is not real. This literally is a dream. This is why it's so important for us to focus on our frequency and raising our consciousness so that we can access these levels of self mastery. Like this stuff it gets really deep.
It does get really deep, and we're definitely going to talk more about living in a dream and another episode for sure, because that's a whole hour right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to go back to something that you said, and you said that you got to be careful about what you're manifesting. And one of my sayings I like to say is that you're manifesting whether you want to or not. So it's like it's definitely a topic that we should really go into, because I think that if you're someone who is already really powerful and you've been working on raising your consciousness actively, like every day, you're doing all these different mindful exercises, et cetera, and you're a very visual person, sometimes you can visualize a life and even start living that life without even realizing it. And for example, I daydream a lot, and I daydreamed one time. And this is after having like a vision of me being in prison. And I started really going into that life. I started feeling how it felt to be in prison and how it felt to be around the people, and, where my life was. And then I remember telling myself, I need to stop,
Mm-hmm.
because, first of all, I don't want to go to prison. I don't ever want that to happen. But I know that in that moment, I was probably getting in touch with someone, not someone, but myself in a different timeline.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I'm still working on the theory, but I don't always think that it's just my timeline. By the way, I think it could be someone else's as well, because sometimes I don't feel like myself.
Hmm.
But as you know, if you believe in reincarnation, um, sometimes it doesn't. You don't necessarily look like how you look
Right.
now. So you could technically be yourself. It's just not in this lifetime. Anyways, but we're not going to go
No,
into that.
that's good. That's good. I love that. That's my jam right there. You can
Yeah,
actually you can actually experience yourself here in a different timeline, but you can incarnate in multiple bodies at once and on the same planet at the same
yeah.
time.
At the
So,
same time, which is crazy because it's like I wonder where the other me is at, and I think that goes into soulmates too, in a way.
mhm, mhm.
So
It's all gets connected. It's all connected. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you have to be careful what you think about, and this gets into becoming a conscious creator, becoming a conscious soul, a mature soul, because there's a lot of people who, even in the self-healing and all that world, they have not grasped the concept that they are the universe. They are the source. They are the God. There's still this separation mindset. And I think that has a lot to do with the perceptions that were shown on social media, just in the world in general. The spiritual community, the transcendence of a lower nature is very much controlled, right? The powers that want to be want people to only have certain perceptions. If you place a blue film over my eyes, I'm only going to see blue. No matter how much I think about whatever, I'm going to filter it through blue. And so we have to, actually, let me say it like this: what we're doing in cosmic frequency is giving the keys and the tools to self mastery, so that you can now take off the filters, see reality from 0 point, and then be the conscious creator and become mature. Because if you still think that there's something outside of you that's doing something, like, yes and no, but you have to learn how to self empower and know how the heck your brain works with your heart, with your body, with your feelings, with your emotions, and how that influences everything. It's
yeah,
the real kind of magic.
absolutely. So speaking of magic, and I definitely want us to talk more about this in our next episode. Just so you guys know, that's the preview there. So make sure you stay tuned.
Woo!
But going into magic, you mentioned a lot about 369 method, or
Oh,
the
yeah.
36912. I think he corrected me. So tell me more about that. What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. Good catch, Tanisha. Honestly, high five, because I totally even forgot about that one. Yeah. So, and I'm okay if this goes to like an hour and five. And I know, but anyways, so, ooh, this is juicy. Reality. So you get into spirituality, which is more the ether physics and the metaphysics of the thing, of reality. But then you have the scientific. They're one and the same, different sides of the same coin. But numbers represent frequencies. You could say that numbers are the harmonics, or the pulse, or the rhythm, the rate of vibration or oscillation of a frequency. That when enough numbers and harmonics come together, they generate a frequency. Now, reality as we understand it on one level is a positive and a negative. When a positive and a negative come together, masculine and feminine, male and female, hot and cold, if they mix, you get a reaction, you get a charge, you get life, sustainability, right? Now, numbers are the same way. You have numbers that are more negative based and numbers that are more positively charged. So the number pattern 369 is a limitation. Even Tesla didn't get that right. And I know, oh my God, how could he ever say that? It's just true. We all have things to work on. Even Tesla. I love him. He's literally one of my soul guides, I'm pretty sure. But with that said, um, there's some tweaks to his math. He understood that the ether was a fundamental aspect of reality, but he didn't yet crack the code of how to tap into its full potential. So 36912 is the sequence that you'd want to follow. Why? Because that represents the invisible side of reality. That represents we could call it the negative side, or the feminine side, or the ethereal side. So if I can get this right, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8 represent the physical side, right? So now that's the Fibonacci sequence. They don't tell you that the Fibonacci is half of the equation. Vortex math is off because it's only half of the equation. Tanisha, you can put into the video, there's this a diagram with vortex math. 369 has like the different triangles and stuff with a circle around it. But when you look at that image, it is not self-generating because it doesn't have the feedback from the ether side or from the spirit side. And when you add that into the equation, that picture itself actually looks way more symmetrical and geometrically balanced. The way that 369 thing that everyone shows looks right now, it's not balanced. The center is like way down here. It's like off. It's not at the center. The center should be at the center, but it can't because it's missing the 3, 6, 9, 12, the 12. So why is that important? Because that state of mind follows us in our thought patterns, in our thinking. We think in 3, 6, 9, and sometimes even 1, 2, 4, 5, 7 Fibonacci, which is a very materialistic way. It's an overload on the materialistic, on the physical side. So we want to balance that with the 3, 6, 9, 12 so that there's harmony. Someone who's thinking in the overloaded 3, 6, 9 vortex math is someone who is going to be focused on materialism, and that's fine to a degree, but they're only going to be able, man, hold on, let me pause because now I'm getting insight. They're like, yo, Chris, this kind of math is not yet known by the majority of the world, and people might want to use it. Is the message I just got. Who might not want to use it for nice things is what I'm getting. Long story short, if you want to learn more about that, join Cosmic Academy.
There you go. That's perfect.
Yeah, there was like oh, we can't get pause, hold it right there.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely piquing my interest.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. No one talks about the 12. I mean, there's a community out there that I used to be a part of, but I'm not gonna put that to the side. But they do talk about base 12. Base 12 is something that I can freely talk about. Humanity bases its math on base 10. Base 10 is a deteriorating process. Base 12 allows there to be a breath and a flow. So when you're using base 12 mathematics, you're including the physical and the ethereal. When you're using base 10, you're only including the physical side of reality. So we have to, if we want to really see advancement in technologies, even in health things that help us become better at making different clothings and different architectures, we got to move into a base 12 mindset, like fundamental to consciousness. Most interstellar races who are advanced have done away with base 10 like zillions of years ago. Base 10 is like, it's like level -1. It's not even level 1.
I'm just gonna nod and pretend like I know what you're talking about because when you as soon as you said math, my brain was like
peace. Yeah.
I love geometry because I think it's important. But what you just said, it's so true because our universe is basically it's math, right? There is mathematics that's included, and it goes into like all these other different things that are just super confusing to me, but super interesting at the same time. Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe I'll take it on as a challenge one day, and I'll jump into cosmic frequency and ask you a million questions about it.
It's because Earth math doesn't make sense. Earth math is not meant to expand your consciousness. Stellar math, which is what I operate in for the most part, is meant to expand your consciousness. So when you heard math, you probably associated with school math and math you heard about traditionally. That's not the kind of math that I'm referring to. The kind of math I'm referring to is the math that you would actually have an easy time with. And most people like you because there is a state of consciousness where math makes sense. I was awful at math in school, like my worst subject by far. But when I really understood what stellar math is, I was like, oh my God. So this is what they're teaching us this bull crap. Like, what is this? I don't even know. Trigonometry, like never applied it. So there's a whole other math, a whole other science of reality that cosmic frequency is and will begin to share because it's important.
Yeah. So wait, is sacred math the same as like geometry, sacred geometry?
Is it? Say it again.
Is it the same? Is sacred math the same as or similar to sacred
Oh,
geometry?
yeah. So it's so tricky because there's truth mixed in with lies, right? And that's why I love doing this podcast because I think we can really get into these nuances. But like most of sacred geometry, like the Platonic solids, there's some truth to them. But again, filtered through the lens of an establishment that only wants to have humans perceive reality a certain way. So they're not going to give you the full function, right? So they're going to give you enough to pique your interest, but they're not going to show you enough to actually free you. That's why, like, when you study sacred geometry, yes, it's beautiful. Yes, I apply it, but it's meant to lead to somewhere else. It's meant to expand you, right? And stellar math or sacred math, in my opinion, would be that next version. And this is when we get into shape power. Um, what geometries are life inducing and what geometries are life reducing? Just
Mm.
because it looks pretty doesn't always mean that it's able to hold the field, right? It's not all it doesn't mean it's always able to allow the aura to breathe and expand.
I
Take a
think you
look at
might need to say that one again for people like me that see really cool designs. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm gonna put that on my wall.
well,
You know.
no. So this one I'm saying it's nuanced. So it's kind of like for example, let me just say it like this. I did an experiments once. It's on my Instagram. I took a flower. I picked a flower. It was like it was like a little buttercup,
Mhm.
and they can stay alive for a while if you put them in water. But I wanted to do an experiment, so I took the buttercup and took a piece of paper and I drew a circle, a square, a triangle, and just a squiggly circle, like a very unsymmetrical circle. And it was a couple of flowers. I put each um, buttercup in the different shapes, and I wanted to see which one lasted longer, which one was able to sustain itself longer. Which one do you think lasted longer, based on the shape? So it was a circle, squiggly, and then like a square. I think were the three ones.
Oh, the circle.
That's what I thought too, but it wasn't. It was actually the triangle. I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it was the triangle. So listen to what I just said. I picked some flowers in my yard. I put them on a piece of paper with a shape drawn around them. And I'm telling you that there was a difference in the lifespan and the health of those flowers. How is that possible?
How is that possible?
Ether physics, shape power, geometry. When you
Huh.
understand one thing, when you understand one aspect of reality, you can then trace the pattern through math, music, frequency, science, geometry. It's all connected. You're seeing it from different angles. But it's possible because shapes, when you draw shapes, they coalesce or condense the ether. This is also materialization, by the way, or manifestation. This is why some buildings are shaped the way they are because they do things to your energetic field. You think walking through a square door is good for you? It's not. That's why a lot of the cathedrals and the castles are shaped like this with the feminine curve. It's like an umbrella because the field of energy that we call the ether is influenced directly by shape. So when you put these buttercups in the circle, the ether condenses at the center. Ether is life force. It's air. It's literally the substance that sustains all things. When you draw a triangle, if I remember correctly, the ether condenses at each point, and then it kind of like it like creates this magnetic effect. So it enhances pyramids. Weird. Shape power. It's all connected. Materialization. Shape power. The squiggly line was awful because there's no coherence. There's no energy. It just was all over the place. So the ether had no you couldn't convert it into anything of sustainable life force. So when I did that experiment, the best one was the triangle. And these are just the very beginnings of things I'm ready to share with the world. And that cosmic frequency is like on a whole other level when it comes to how we operate as conscious souls.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of a couple
Mm.
things too that we're
Yeah.
definitely going to talk about in the future, but I'm going to hold off on talking about it because I feel like that's going to bring us into that subject. And yeah, it's just a whole other thing. So I want to end by sharing some, or with sharing some resources, some personal resources that we might have. More specifically, books that we've read in the past where that's helped us with our ideas um, about manifestation and anything that we want to share with our viewers right now. And I'll start with mine, and that is anything by Abraham Hicks. I'm sorry, Esther Hicks. And this is the law of attraction, the law of vibration, and then the art of allowing. All of her books are great, but those are the three that are my favorite. And I'll also put that in the description as well, some links to those books, as well as the CIA document that I mentioned in the beginning of this video.
My turn? Yeah. Okay. No, that's awesome. Esther's awesome. So my books, I do a lot of PDFs. I look things up that are very unconventional, to be honest. One that I found that I love is that Shape Power book by Dan A. Davidson. It's called Shape Power, life changing, world shifting. I've read this book twice. I'm gonna read it again just because it's so good and it's so applicable to everyday life. Um, there's a book that I love, one for pure entertainment, but also for the science and the wisdom that's in it, and it's called A Dweller on Two Planets. This book changed my life in a way that was very subtle. And this book is it was channeled by a teenager back in like the 1800s. I still don't know if it's point is it's about a man who had an experience on Atlantis and then on Jupiter or something like that. It's mind blowing, really cool.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so there's some gems in there. If people have the eyes to see, they'll pick them out pretty easily. What else? Oh, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Life Ahead. That's one of my favorites as well. I love him. He's a great author, great teacher. One of my favorites. And those are my three that I can think of at this moment.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another amazing episode. Thank you again for being so transparent with me and honest about your experiences. I think this is definitely going to be a conversation to be had again, maybe on a deeper level when I've gone through a Cosmic Academy. Let's see what else. I'm going to go ahead and skip over the events that is still listed in the description of this video. I want to talk a little bit more about just really quick, actually.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, just about anything right now that you might want to share for someone who is struggling with the idea of manifestation. They're not sure where to start.
Mm.
They are still working on raising their consciousness. They have an understanding now after watching this video that it's all encompassing. It's not, little things at a time that you're learning. Everything's all the same, or at least the foundation that should happen, right?
Right.
What can you say to them right now?
So people are having a hard time with manifestation. I would say to let go. Let go. Less is more. Because if you're having a hard time, that's because you're trying. So you're manifesting reality where you're trying to manifest. So breathe, relax, let go of whatever it is you're trying to bring into reality. Two, do not think in terms of bringing into your reality like I just said. Think in terms of I am that. Experience yourself having those moments of being the man or woman experiencing the thing. And then the third thing I would say is focus on resonance. So instead of acquiring, obtaining, getting, bringing in, resonance is the word that you want to have resounding in your mind. Because when you hear resonance, that means there's a match. Something's in phase. Something is harmonizing. When it comes to materialization and manifestation, it's about resonance, achieving the frequency within yourself first. That's the fundamental key. Let go of time skipping and all the things that we talked about, ironically enough, and focus on the resonance tone of the energy you want to experience. And you will naturally find yourself starting to gravitate and things just start to happen because there's no longer these like walls of blockage, of resistance, of how do I do it. So that's the short version. And we have one-on-ones too. We can dive into a one-on-one session and get into all the fun things as well.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll also put your link to your website down there so people can, access your one-on-one sessions.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's a great video.
That was awesome. That was a lot of fun. I love that.
Yeah.
I love those topics. T, you're amazing. I appreciate you always. Everyone who has watched this, thank you so much for being here. This one was a little bit longer, but it kind of deserved it, needed the extra attention. Yeah, we have events, new website, one-on-one services, donations, however you want to support Cosmic Frequency. Let us know how we can support you. T does a great job of assisting with all things Cosmic Frequency, so don't hesitate to check her out. And we'll see you either in a session or in the academy.
Bye.
Peace.